Good afternoon, Dr. Kett. Good afternoon, Dr. Cummings. Both of you in tandem, standing out from the crowd, touching many people in the city along the way, you have developed the most up-to-date treatments. Dr. Cummings, how did you gain your extensive training and credentials in the neuroscience industry, and how many years have you been practicing neurology in Las Vegas?
Isabel, thank you very much for this interview. It's fantastic to be included in this way. I started off as a boy loving the philosophy and loving biology. And philosophy and biology come together in the study of the brain. So I knew right from the beginning I was going to be a person who studied the brain. I did it in college. I did it in medical school. Then I entered my training as a cognitive neurologist. Then I entered my career first at UCLA and then here at the Lou Rubo Center for Brain Health before going on to the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, where I am now. So I had a very extensive educational history, and along the line, I did many clinical trials and learned a lot about drug development.
So as a research professor in the Department of Brain Health, where you recently founded the Chambers-Grundy Center for Transformative Neuroscience, tell us about your extensive work in clinical trials.
I started many years ago when we hardly knew how to do clinical trials. I was working at UCLA in Los Angeles, and gradually the trials have become more and more sophisticated. They have used more and more things like brain imaging and blood tests to tell us exactly what the drugs are doing. And then that eventually led to the recent approval of a brand new treatment for Alzheimer's disease, the first to be approved by the FDA in 17 years.
Wow, it's amazing. Yes. Quite amazing, right? How did you receive that news? How did you?
Well, we have been quite involved for a long time. We actually brought the clinical trials here to Las Vegas. So one of the trials was actually done here at the Lou Rubo Center for Brain Health. So obviously we have been quite involved with the overall development of this drug as well as the FDA approval processes. So of course we have been anxiously anticipating, knowing that the FDA was in the process of reviewing and approving this drug. So when that was finally announced on that Monday morning, we've been waiting for a long, long time. So we were all very ecstatic, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly.
I can imagine, yes.
Yes.
This is the first drug that is thought to actually impact the biology, the underlying changes, disease changes that are going on in the brain. The very first drug to do that for Alzheimer's disease. So not only is it a new drug, it is a whole new kind of drug. And it's going to open the door for many other similar kinds of treatments.
So just to give you some idea, so all the Alzheimer's drugs that have been approved prior to this, and they had a very different kind of mechanism. So they would only target the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, but not really treating the underlying pathology. So, but this drug is different.
And how's the public reacted to that news?
It's been a very controversial.
Yes, that's what I heard.
And
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Many things that contribute to the controversy. One is the trial program itself that was conducted by Biogen, the sponsor of the drug, was somewhat irregular and therefore difficult to interpret. And there were two trials, and one was negative and one was positive, robustly positive. So that's another source of consternation in terms of interpreting it. And then because of these things, the advisory board to the FDA recommend that it not be approved. And the FDA looked at the data again, took the advice or took the concerns of the advisory board into account and decided that the drug should be approved. So, of course, this set up the stage for controversy. Now, we have examined these data very carefully because the FDA has been very transparent in releasing all of the analyses and many of the discussions that were in the background leading to the approval of this drug. And when you look at those, I myself am convinced of the efficacy of the drug and of the safety of the drug when one is knowledgeable about how to handle it and what to watch for. So I think the controversies are very reasonable in terms of bringing up some clinical uncertainties, pointing out the side effects of the drug.
Another aspect, if I may add, to among the controversy surrounding this drug is the proposed pricing for this drug. I think that a lot of people feel that that's on the very high side, particularly for Alzheimer's patients. A lot of them cannot afford, but I think the company has been working very hard on that. I mean, obviously, a lot of patients who are over the age of 65 are on Medicare, and so the company is working with the Medicare system and look for a way to demonstrate that the drug is safe, drug is very efficacious, so that it will be covered by the insurance. So I think that's one way of solving the issue of the pricing. And I cannot speak for the company, obviously, but the company also are taking some initiative looking at how they can create different programs in order to address this issue.
You are also a professor in the brain health department at UNLV. As a psychiatrist, you see a large number of patients for the usual problems that bring patients to counselors and doctors. What are the common questions that patients ask you with regards to Alzheimer's disease prevention and concerns?
There are quite a few very commonly asked questions by the family members of our patient, by their children. For example, if somebody's mom has Alzheimer's, and the question will be that, how much is my risk to get Alzheimer's? And even more importantly, what can I do so that I can actually
prevent,
reduce the risk
right?
and
Yes.
to prevent the Alzheimer's? So I think those are the very important questions, and those are the questions that we have been asking ourselves, the scientists and researchers, and there has been a lot of research and studies done in the areas of prevention, and a lot of progress has been made. This is something I'm particularly passionate about, that is brain health, and what we can do on a day-to-day basis so that we can reduce the risk of dementia and hopefully in the future that we can prevent it.
Can you give a few examples how we can prevent it?
There are certain, many ways that we can do to reduce the risk of dementia. For example, a lot of studies have shown that the physical exercise has been demonstrated to be critically important in slowing down the brain aging process and in a way to reduce risk for dementia. For those people who have been exercising on a regular basis, by that we mean on average about 150 minutes per week, and with a combination of aerobic exercise, yoga, for example, and weightlifting, strength training, and flexibility. And then those people tend to live a much healthier lifestyle to start with.
Yes.
And their hearts are stronger and their brains are sharper. So physical exercise, get moving, get going, is one of what we call the 6 pillars of brain health. And there are 5 other areas as well.
And Isabel, I might say that studies have shown that 30, maybe even 40% of the risk of Alzheimer's disease is attributable to lifestyle factors. So things like not exercising, having diabetes, having obesity, smoking, all of these things are risk factors for Alzheimer's disease as well as for heart disease. We know that. But they're also risk factors for Alzheimer's disease, and by working on them, one can decrease the risk of Alzheimer's disease by up to 30%.
That's good to know, right? I'm sure many of us have read many things about Alzheimer's disease, but we love to have your point of view and see what really could help to prevent.
Obviously, it's a complex disease, and getting old is one of the major risk factors. So, aging is one of the risk factors, and also if you have a very strong family history of Alzheimer's, that also puts you at a higher risk compared to those who don't have a family history. But that doesn't mean that you're going to get Alzheimer's, right? So that there are so much we can do on a day-to-day basis and making an effort, get moving, eat healthy, and sleep. Sleep is very, very important because during your sleep, that your body is actually clear out some of the toxic protein buildup in your brain, which can contribute to Alzheimer's. And so sleep and stress reduction, among many other things, as Jeff has just mentioned about, there are many, many medical conditions from hypertension, high cholesterol, heart disease, diabetes, and all are putting individual at a much higher risk for getting Alzheimer's. So I think it's very, very important for people to stay physically healthy, and if people are taking medication to control their cholesterol level and their blood pressure, they should be very mindful, making sure that they are healthy. Otherwise, they should take care of their heart, and they should take care of their hearing, take care of their eyesight, and in that way, they are also helping themselves to take care of their brain health as well.
In both of your clinic work, you became known for your Alzheimer awareness and concerns for Alzheimer disease treatments. Can you tell us what is the most challenging aspect of doing clinical trials on Alzheimer disease?
You want to start?
So it's back to you, Dr. Cummings.
I'll start. The most difficult thing by far is recruiting the patients into the trial, because although Alzheimer's disease is a very common disease, the trials want very healthy participants so that they know that they can participate in the trial, that if side effects arose, that they can tolerate the side effects, that they won't be taking other drugs that might interfere with the drug that's being tested in the clinical trial. So when all of those inclusion and exclusion factors are considered, it turns out that only a tiny fraction of this very common disease can be included in the clinical trial. And because clinical trials usually have several thousand patients, each of the sites, like the Lugo Center when we were there, must recruit 10 to 15 patients, and that takes usually about a year to do that.
Now, Dr. Cummings, you are extremely interested in drug development for treatments into neurodegenerative disorders. Can you tell us more about the FDA announcement of the approval of the new drugs to treat Alzheimer's? You are making history and changing the world.
I think that's right, Isabel. That's one of the reasons we're very excited about it. A very special part of this approval was that patients had a scan at the beginning of the trial which showed that they had a protein, an abnormal protein in the brain. And at the end of the trial, they had another scan, and in most patients, the protein was gone. So that's a very powerful and very visual effect when the scan goes from very abnormal to normal or nearly normal. And the FDA said, that's a powerful observation, and we believe that it will predict clinical benefit. Therefore, we're going to approve the drug primarily on what happened with the scan, because there are supporting observations in terms of memory testing, but they're not quite as supportive as we would like them to be. So the company is now required to do another study to prove that the drug is working. But the very important thing is that means our patients don't have to wait 5 years to get this treatment. And that's just so important because in 5 years, many of the patients who currently qualify will actually be too severe. We don't want that to happen while we're waiting for another trial. So we think with fully informed consent, that is, we tell the patients that there are some uncertainties about the clinical outcomes. We tell them that there are side effects that can occur. We tell them that the protein is dramatically removed from the brain. And then they can decide. And we think of this as shared decision-making with the patient, and that becomes more and more important as the drugs become more and more complex. As the patient and the caregiver have to know what it is that they're getting into when they want to pursue a new therapy.
Thank you for the information you gave us about all the awareness of Alzheimer's disease and the new drugs. Again, congratulations, you two. And it's wonderful to have this approved by the FDA.
Indeed.
And
as we just talked about, this is really the first drug in the last 17 years. Not just the drug in itself, but this is really marking the new era, the new beginning of many new, exciting, innovative drugs to come. There are about at least three brand new drugs currently in the pipeline that we are hoping soon to be on the market for Alzheimer's. So I think the approval of this particular drug is very significant, not just the drug itself, but also really open the door in the future for many patients who can benefit from this class of medication.
Isabel, your listeners might want to know that we collaborate very closely with two of the leading Alzheimer's disease researchers in the world located in France. So one of them is Bruno Dubois, a great friend for a long time with me. And Bruno has been very instrumental in actually defining what Alzheimer's disease is. It used to be said you could only diagnose Alzheimer's disease when the patient came to autopsy. And of course, as doctors, we feel that that is uncomfortably late in our relationship with the patient. So we would like to make the diagnosis earlier, and Bruno Dubois engineered the way of thinking about the early part of Alzheimer's disease and how to make the diagnosis when the patient is still alive. And the other one that we collaborate is Bruno Bellas. Bruno is a leading Alzheimer's disease researcher in Toulouse. He directs the Alzheimer's Center there and is very collaborative in our clinical trials and in the work around publishing clinical trials, since he is the leader of a very well-known journal called the Journal of Prevention of Alzheimer's Disease. So our French collaborators are just so important to advancing the research agenda against Alzheimer's disease.
so here we found a connection between France and Las Vegas, right? So,
as a matter of fact, we were in Toulouse 2 years ago to attend Bruno's daughter's wedding. So we were at this beautiful French wedding.
very nice. And do your collaborators already came to Las Vegas?
Bruno did.
Bruno Bellas has been here. I don't think Bruno Dubois is. It brings us to another point that Kate didn't emphasize when she was talking about brain health. And that's that one glass of red wine per day is also thought to improve your brain health. And if it's from Bordeaux, it's even more protective.
Okay, I like that.
And we know the doctor in Bordeaux. And learning French, as a matter of fact, is a great way to keep your brain sharp. We encourage people to pick up new hobbies, learning something new. Learning a different language is a fantastic way of practicing your brain skill set and to stimulate the growth of your nerve cells and to keep your brain healthy.
I can emphasize that more myself because I was a French instructor at UNLV. So
That's our
I
connection
support
there.
that. The last question I have was your involvement or not. I don't know if you're still involved with any events that the Lou Rouveau Center are running year long. I know you have been the founder of Lou Rouveau Center, and they do have events, maybe slowing down right now because of the COVID. But can you tell us a little bit about their events? Because we are a magazine of art and culture, so we'd like to also have the opportunity for our members to go to events, to go to charity events, to anything you could tell us about if they are still running. Maybe right now it's in standby. I don't know.
So at the Cleveland Clinic, the Rouveau Center for Brain Health, there have been many charity events over the years, and there is one in particular that really stands out. That's called the Keep Memory Alive Power of Love Annual Gala. And we participated in Power of Love Annual Gala even before we moved to Las Vegas. We were invited because that was a gala that is raising money, raising awareness to support the cause of the center, to advance treatment and help the patient and caregiver. We've been here in Las Vegas for 11 years. We have been attending the Power of Love Gala every year. That's really one of the most, I would say, exciting and just a crowd gathering with a lot of celebrities and a very cool event. And we've been participating every year. Even last year, just before the COVID restriction of shutting down, the Power of Love Gala took place just 1 week before the whole city of Las Vegas shut down. So I think that we were fortunate to be able to participate and join that event. This year, in 2021, the Power of Love Gala will be held in October, I believe. October, so that again, we look forward to joining many people to raise awareness and to fight Alzheimer's and to find new treatment.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, Jeff can certainly add to that.
So when we came here in 2010, I came to build the Lou Rouveau Center clinical program, and Kate was the director of the clinical trials program. And one of the things that was so attractive about this program was the Lou Rouveau Center itself, which was designed by the architect Frank Gehry. And Frank Gehry is just one of the most creative people that we have ever met. And we had the great pleasure of interacting with him several times. When he came back to the building, he was filled with pride about the building. He talked about how he didn't know how he could bring anything to Las Vegas, which already had the pyramids and the Eiffel Tower. And of course, what he brought was authentic architecture. And that Lou Rouveau Center then is...
It's an amazing building. It's really creative, beautiful, yes.
Yes, and very creative, and there are many events held in that event center, which is the beautiful architectural piece that he rendered there. And then, as we've now both of us gone over to UNLV, we continue very strong scientific collaborations with them. I'm now the director of the Chambers-Grundy Center for Transformative Neuroscience. I study clinical trials, and we do it in conjunction with the continuing clinical trials at the Lou Rouveau Center for Brain.
Thank you very much for having me today. And I wish you all the best and continuation on the Alzheimer's disease awareness.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Isabel.
You're welcome.